We're going to be using a piece of software called GIMP. And if you go to search for it and type in GI, it'll just pop up here, and it's GIMP 2. It's called a desktop app. Click it, double click it one time. It will take a while for it to open, especially the very first time that you're using it. Remember how that was when you first used Inkscape. When yours pops up, it's likely that it's going to look something like this. With 3 windows, do not close or X out of any of these tabs. Leave them all open, you're going to need them. So here's what you do. You go to Windows, single window mode, and it's going to put it all together so it's one program just like this. The other thing is you want to make sure you make it full screen, not just sort of large, because there's some tools down here at the bottom that you can't get to unless you enlarge it all of the way. If some of these tools are gone and you can't find them, go to Windows Dockable Dialogues and they're all here. Or you can look for recently closed ones if you accidentally close one of the docks. Okay, so we're ready to get started. And the first thing that you need to do is open your object photo. So you're going to go File, Open. I'll click Open. And it opens up. The next thing that I want to open now is a picture of myself. I'm actually using a student for this, but if I go into File, and this time I want to open as a layer. So it's going to be a new layer. Alright, so now I have both of my pictures and I can see them over here in my layers palette. If you can't see them, you may have a different thing checked over here rather than the layers palette. Something else may be open. You may have one that says red, green, blue. That's a channels palette. So you want to look for the stack of white papers and click on that. It's important that you're there. The next thing that I want to do is I'm going to click on the first one, which is the image of me, and I want to lower the opacity down, and it's this bar right here, and I can just click about right there so I can kind of see the cup through there. And I want to click on this so it turns blue, that section, and I want to scale it. So I'm going to click on the big square, little square, and I want to change the size of it just a little bit so he looks like he's going to fit inside of my cup. You can scale it larger or smaller. It's up to you what you need to do. It might be a good idea to lock it so that you don't get yourself all distorted. And then once I like where it is, I'm going to click scale. I can change it again later if I need to, but I need to get it the right size before I get started. I want to move it just a little bit, so I'm going to click on this 4-way arrow right here. It's a move tool, and I'm going to move him up so his arms look like they're resting on the edge of the cup. And I want to make sure that his head isn't chopped off at the top. I still think it's a little big, so I'm going to make it just a touch smaller. Scale tool again. Click scale. And now it's in the wrong place, so I'm going to move it back where I would like for it to sit. If you can't see well enough to see through it, you can make the opacity a little lower, a little higher, whatever you need to do to be able to get it to see inside of it. Okay, so I kind of like the position that he's in right there. So the next thing that I'm going to do now is I'm ready to kind of get rid of everything except for I want to leave the cup and him in there. So I'm going to right click on that blue, on the self blue line, and I want to add a layer mask. It should be white, full opacity, and click add. So now I have a white square here, which is going to be over the top of this. I'm going to use my paintbrush. And with layer masks, you want to click on that square, so you're not painting on him, but I'm painting inside this little white square. And what a mask does is it hides anything that you paint over if you use the color black, which is the top color right here. I have a white below it and black on top. That means black is the color that I'm going to be painting with. I'm going to make my brush fairly large, and I'm going to paint over this, and it's going to look like it's erasing it. It isn't actually erasing it, but it is getting rid of it. And it can get pretty large here. Another thing that I can do is use my magic wand here. I'm going to click that. Click on him this time, and click in this space behind him. And it's going to give me kind of an interesting outline. You'll see it's kind of outlined around his head. Now if I take my paintbrush while that's selected and click on the square over here, I can erase a lot of that background and get around close to his head without it being a problem there. There's going to be a few lines that I'll have to get rid of too, but I've got a nice ridge around him that's kind of cleared out. Okay, so I want to click on select none, and I still have all of this area that I need to cover up. So I can go here and scroll in and out, get closer, get some of this to be done. Go up here, get rid of this. Have to be really careful with the edges of this brush. So I'm going to go to a hard-edged brush and make it smaller so I can get close up to things. Oh, I have to be careful because I don't want to take a bite out of his shoulder. I'll make it smaller so I can see and make sure I've got everything close to the edges here. Now if I click on the bottom layer, I can see it. I'm going to click on this and show you what happens if I accidentally cut into his shirt like so. I haven't erased the whole shirt, so I can switch my color to white and go back, and if I go over this again, it's going to put it back in just where it was. If I need to go and zoom in close and get some of the extra stuff out of there, I can. But it allows me to, on this mask, you can see it's made like a little frame around, and it's just him, so that's the only part that you can see because the rest of it we covered up in darkness. Alright, so now I'm going to take and make that 100% opaque, and I look at how this looks. I like it. I'm going to click the bottom layer so that I can see what it looks like, and it looks great. Alright, so now it's time to put the name on it because this is the artist page, and I'm going to click on a text font here, and I'm going to make the name go vertical because I like there's space here and there's space over here. I could do first name and last name like so if I wanted to, and change it to be 144, 100 or 144. Change it to be 144. It's a much better size. Okay, so I've got first name, and then over here I'm going to add last name. I'm using all capital letters because it makes it, I think it'll be a better. Okay, so if I like this, but I would like for them to go straight down the row, so I'm going to select the letters. Rather than being all on the left side like that, I want them to be centered in the middle like this. The Dakota looks pretty good, so I'm going to leave that like that. I can move this. You'll notice I have different layers here. So if I'm going to move this layer, I'm going to click on it and click my move tool. And now I can move it around. I could actually change the color of it if I wanted to. I can go to the text tool. And click on the color here. And I've made that color right there, so I click OK. And now they're all that color. And I can do the same thing with this one. I can do the same thing with this one. Click where it says color in the color wheel and do something like that. And then click OK. Alright, so I've got my, click off of that. And if I click on the bottom layer, I can see what it looks like. If it's not adjusted exactly where I want it to be adjusted, I can use the move tool here and move the text to the right location. Okay, so here's when that happened to me, and this may happen to you, so you need to know, you need to make sure you click on Move Active Layer. So it grabs the layer that you're trying to move, not just a random layer. Now I'm going to click on this layer and move it and get them maybe a little closer here. Okay. Once you're finished with that, you're now ready to save it. There are a couple things you need to know. First of all, you need to save it. File, save as, and you can put it in your photos, and you want to name it your name, or I'm going to name this one DC, and it should say .xcf. Very important that it says that, because this will allow you to go back and edit it if you have a problem or something that you didn't see at first when you were doing it. Okay. The next thing, you need to save it again a second time, and this time you're going to file export, and you want it to be DC, and we're going to make it .jpg. And it can also be in your photos. And then click export. And it's going to pop up this window. You want to make it at 100 and say export. And you're done. The one that you want to upload to Canvas will be the JPG. And the other one is a backup.